Paul Hunter is an epidemiologist and professor of medicine at the University of East Anglia and joins us now from Norwich. Professor Hunter, good to speak with you. First of all, let's talk about Covax. The WHO have announced some 2 billion vaccines as part of that initiative. What's your reaction to that news, and when do you think some of the poorer parts of the world will begin to get vaccinated?
Yeah, it's not clear at the moment. I think there is going to be a big difficulty in getting particularly the Pfizer vaccine out to low-income countries because of the intense cold chain that's needed. And for many vaccines that we use routinely in low-income countries, maintaining the cold chain has always been difficult. So once these other vaccines that don't require such cold temperatures are approved for use, then hopefully that will be able to then be distributed out throughout low-income countries more easily than perhaps some of the more tricky vaccines in terms of cold chain.
Absolutely, and the cold chain is one part of it. It's also the messenger RNA as part of Pfizer, BioNTech's and Moderna's. And that kind of new technology that's being used in vaccines is leading to some people being reluctant, hesitant to take the vaccine. What are your thoughts on this vaccine hesitancy that we're obviously seeing growing as more people are expecting to be offered the chance of taking a new one?
Well, I think it is disappointing. The evidence for the Pfizer vaccine particularly, we haven't seen the full data yet from the Moderna vaccine, although it's a very similar vaccine, so that they would essentially have the same effectiveness. The Pfizer vaccine is very highly effective, 95% effective, which is quite incredible for a vaccine. And the data on side effects, severe reactions are actually less than many of us were expecting. So I have no doubt whatsoever that the mRNA vaccines are going to be effective and safe. And certainly, given the choice, I personally hope to have a mRNA vaccine.
So you would quite happily take this vaccine if offered to you?
Yeah, I would take it in preference to any other vaccine, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, it's new technology. There is that question around it. But more broadly, how do you think we're dealing with the pandemic? There's a sense, I guess, that we have these vaccines, so many people feel like we're getting towards the end of it. But of course, if you look at case numbers and deaths in many countries, they're higher than they were at the beginning of this year.
Indeed, and it is very disappointing, and particularly in England, we've seen this very rapid growth in the last week, particularly in London, the southeast and east of England, where there is suggestions that it may be because of this new, more infectious strain. I mean, we've seen new strains arrive before. Most of them don't have any real differences, but we've seen one previous strain arise around February that then ultimately spread globally. And the big concern is that if what we're seeing in England at the moment is a new strain that really is more infectious, and I think it's beginning to look like that, then that could be a problem, not just for England, but globally, certainly.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that new strain. That was going to be my final question. As an epidemiologist, what do you put this down to? It's only in certain parts of the UK where this new strain has been discovered. Where has this come from? You're right that these infections do mutate, but what are your thoughts?
And the mutation is always a random thing. So most mutations, when they happen, actually kill the virus. Some don't make any difference. Some make them more infectious. And if this is what's happening here, the best guess, we don't know for certain, but my best guess is that it probably mutated, appeared somewhere in the southeast of England literally in the last few weeks. And if that is the case, and it has spread to the amount that we are being told it has spread already, then that is very worrying, very scary about this actually then spreading much more quickly, more widely in the UK and elsewhere.
So just a concerning development. Just when you thought you're getting on top of this disease, something else happens.
God, yes, yeah. I mean, it's the worst news that one could have expected have at this time of year, sadly, I think, if it does turn out to be a rather more infectious strain.
Okay, Professor Hunter, thank you very much for your analysis. Thank you.